You're now watching the Mike Missanelli podcast on the BetRivers Network.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another Mike Missanelli podcast. We do this podcast on Tuesday, June 25th. It is brought to us by BetRivers. I hope you had a successful evening last night. If you bet the Florida Panthers, I think it was like minus $1.5 though. So if you bet the Panthers, maybe you lose. What was that fun? It was 2-1, right? I caught the last period. I love to watch the last period of a Game 7. But I was glued to the College World Series, Baseball College World Series. We'll talk about that in a second. Again, if you want to email me, mike@mikemiss.com. We'll put it right out of the chute. I love to hear from folks, and I reply to every email. Let's start with the big story in town here. Your Philadelphia Phillies, they started a 3-game series against another, well, this is a Trek team. They've played some good teams. Detroit Tigers on one of them. Matt Vierling's your leadoff hitter. I don't know what you have there in Detroit, but a big win for them last night. Aaron Nola pitched well, and Bryce Harper is just flat out ridiculous. And I'm going to make a case here for Harper to be the MVP because I think he is going to be the MVP. And here's the reason why. Because I think people are sick and tired of voting for Ohtani. And I think that Ohtani has given them a little bit of a voting gap this year because he's not pitching. So with him not pitching, because that was obviously in the mindset of making him MVP. Oh, my God, look what he does on the mound and with the bat. Harper's numbers have just been flat out absurd. His OPS is over 400. His on-base percentage over 400. He's got 60 RBI, close to 60 RBIs. He's just a basher. He's locked in on every at-bat, and last night a couple doubles and a home run, and you just can't pitch to him right now. Okay, so last night, everybody's talking about the one thing that happened, which was the triple play, and how it hasn't happened since 1928. I got to ask you a question, you in America. Why is that an important stat? Like, oh my God, it hasn't happened since 1928. Well, obviously it hasn't happened since 1928. It's a fluke play. It's like one of the flukiest plays you could ever have. So I wouldn't expect that was going to happen a lot in baseball. I love when they throw these stats out there. Like, oh, it hasn't happened since 1928. Oh, no kidding. Really? It was a broken bat, humpback liner to the pitcher. The guy on third, obviously, from his angle, may have thought it bounced to the pitcher because the bat was kind of cracked and it threw him off. He darts towards home, so Nola catches it. That's out one. Doubles the guy out first base, and then Harper goes, what is this idiot doing running across the plate, and makes him throw to third base to get a triple play. It's a weird play. And in baseball, sometimes you have weird plays like that. And the fact, like, what are the chances that there would be another 1, 3, 5. Like, really, seriously. And so it hasn't happened in 1928. Oh, really? I'm shocked that it happened in 1928, for crying out loud. All right, so yeah, I mean it's an interesting play, but I don't know what the relevance of stats are. Sometimes I think we put stats in there that sound good. But here's the other thing. Who in the world would keep that kind of a record? Like, how do you chart a record like that? Like, I don't know, these people that accumulate records that are able to come up with the answer quickly. Oh, you know what? Let me look at the book. Well, that didn't happen since 1928. Who's keeping track of this stuff in baseball? These little minutia stats. It's amazing to me. All right, so it happens. But the other thing that happened this week, I think, was more important for the Phillies. Now, there's no question in my mind that they're going to play the Dodgers for the right to go to the World Series. That's already been settled. And there's no question in my mind that Harper's going to win MVP this season. But here's the thing that the Phillies have been smart in doing. They got Christopher Sanchez under a contract that was an absolute steal. All right, this is a guy coming into his own now. You dangle in front of his agent a 4-year deal where he's getting like a little more than $5 million a year, $22 million in 4 years. That's a steal. And they locked him into a rotation, which means they have locked in Wheeler and Nola through 2026, and now Sanchez, and now the only guy left is Ranger Suarez. And so the question is, like, they're going to have to get him done. What is he worth now? So for giggles, let's look over the next year. Wheeler makes $42 million. Aaron Nola is in the $26 million situation. The fourth starter, Christopher Sanchez, now is making $5 and change. How high do you go for Ranger Suarez? And if you're Rangers agent, how high? What do you ask for? Can you ask for as much as Nola at this point of your career? I don't know. They're in a situation now. He's going to get at least $20 to $25 million in a long-term contract. Now, just think about that, having four starters locked in for the next several years. That's pretty damn good. That's good general managership. Because to me, that's the most important thing. Barring injuries now to starting pitchers, I get that. There's always a risk with injuries. But you have to do the best you can for your pitching staff. And your pitching staff now, you've maximized it. Now, I don't know about the fifth starter, the fourth starter, whether they're going to slot the right-hander, whether it's Turnbull or whether Walker's going to come back. I don't know. I will caution you to say that we're overvaluing Turnbull at this point because he's had early success. Guys like that very rarely will continue the success that they've had because hitters adjust, game plans adjust, and I don't know if he's going to be like. I know. See, we have a tendency in Philadelphia to overvalue temporary performances, and we're doing this now with Turnbull. We did it with Rojas. I go. Hold on a second. You got to give me a kind of a resume before I go crazy for players. But so the other thing that happened with the Phillies, this was a pretty awesome weekend for the Phillies. Because you had two games on streaming, and we'll get to that in a second. But you had the Cole Hamels ceremony. People were raving about it. I thought it was good. I don't know, it was rave-worthy, but the guy looks like $1 million. I mean, the guy looks like an actor. Hey, he really, you see these players when they lead the game, how they change. That dude still looks pretty good. So that Hollywood nickname still works with him. The Phillies spend a lot of money on these things. And this is the first thing I thought. Like, they get Chooch in from Panama. Like, that's not cheap. You fly him in. He probably flew his family in. Cole Hamels had about 100 people in his entourage. You got those guys in there. That's on the Phillies' dime. And all these other ex-players that come in, they're treated with royalty. You know, they got the very best. They're holed up at the Four Seasons, the food, the whole bit, the accommodations. They spend a ton of money on these things, and they usually do them pretty well. And I thought the Cole Hamels thing was pretty good. It is amazing to me how perceptions of players change. And at one point, when Cole Hamels, after the 2008, 2009 season, then he started to struggle a little bit, fans couldn't stand him in this town. And the one thing they said about Cole, he's soft. Because I remember Larry Boa coming on my radio show and throwing dirt on these fans that thought he was soft. Larry's famous quote was, Cole Hamels is game on. Right? And Cole Hamels was a pretty good competitor. And I think he's in the hierarchy of great Phillies players. I think Cole Hamels is a little shortchanged. Now, the ceremony would lend you to think otherwise because it was a pretty glorious ceremony. But I think over the last several years, he's kind of been shortchanged. And I think it's because he's tried to hang on. And when they traded him, all of a sudden he found himself again with the Texas Rangers and helped them get to the division finals. But I'd always thought he was underappreciated. And now they're hinting about bringing him back in some capacity. I would assume that means he's going to be some kind of a spring training instructor. So let's talk about the telecast. Apple TV and then Roku. Roku was a morning game. I actually liked it. I had no problem with either broadcast. I think the blend of broadcasters they put in there especially in Sunday. We had Tom Candiotti with Tom McCarthy to give you a little Arizona, Phillies blend. And here's the thing that really ticks me off about fans sometimes, because I read tweets. Saturday's game, they had Kruk, they had McCarthy, and they had Ryan Spilborg, or as they call him, Spilly. Now, I'm reading the tweets, and they're going, how come they're not pro Philly? Do you people understand that Apple TV is a national broadcast? Does the thought even cross your mind that they have to be a little more neutral because it's a national broadcast? They're bitching about McCarthy and Kruk not being pro Philly enough. Why are people so stupid? I don't get it. It's a national broadcast. Do you not realize that? All right. Here's the other thing that bugs me about fans. That's probably right there. Fans always think that the announcers aren't home enough, or they look at a national broadcast and they say they're against us. And I go, it depletes you so much as a fan when you do stuff like that. But here's the other thing in the ballpark that has always bugged me, and I think I've mentioned this 1,000 times before. A pitcher throws over to first base with a runner on first base. 40,000 people boo. And I'm going, what? What is that? Why would you boo? If anything, now you should cheer because he's only got one disengagement left. Let me bring Darren in for all of these points that we just talked about. First of all, let's talk about the announcer and the complaint that they're not pro-Philly enough.
That's a common gripe by Philadelphia fans, I think. And it might be a common gripe in all cities. But yeah, it's a national broadcast. They have to understand that. I thought it was fine. I really did. I thought it was a good mix. And I had no problems with it. I actually like some of the different camera angles that those national broadcasts and those streaming broadcasts brought. So I had no problem with that at all. But I do feel like that's a common gripe. How many times do we hear, Joe Buck doesn't like Philadelphia? And nothing could be farther from the truth. But I hear that crap all the time.
The one thing about Philly fans, and I love them dearly because they're so passionate, but they're so overly sensitive and insecure about themselves. Like, come on now. Let's grow up. Let's be a grown-up fan base. I mean, this is that petty nonsense that announcers are against us. All right, the NBA draft is tomorrow night and Thursday night. Not that it means a hell of a lot for the Sixers, and not that it means a hell of a lot in interest for the NBA, to be honest with you. This is one of the biggest unknown drafts that I have ever seen. I mean, when you're talking about guys from Australia and France being the guys that you used to select, that we have no frame of reference for seeing any of these players. I don't know if there's any different. This is the first draft that I can remember where there might not be a difference player. Like you're going on hope at this point. All right. So the first pick in the draft, consensus is a 19-year-old wing from where does he play? He plays for J.L. Borg. I don't even know where that is. Is that France or was it Australia or I don't know what it is, but it's Zachary Richer. 6'8" wing forward. He's 19 years old. Okay, that's
could be Timbuktu for all I know.
I don't have any idea who he is. I'm sorry. I would love to give you some insight on these players. The next pick going to the Wizards is supposed to be Alex Sarr, who plays for the Perth Wildcats in Australia. He's a 7-foot big. He's 19. Yeah, you got me. All right, now this is weird. This is a weird draft. This is the first time I go, really? Who are these guys? I don't even know them. Houston Rockets. Now, this is how bad the draft is. Now, listen, I saw Reed Sheppard play a lot last year for Kentucky. He's a 6'2", Caucasian guard who's the son of a former Kentucky player who was a pretty good player, Jeff Sheppard. I remember his father. Reed Sheppard is an okay player. He's okay. You know, he's 20 years old. He's 6'2". He's the third pick in the draft. Oh, you gotta be kidding me, dude. All right, let's move on. The fourth pick in the draft, Stephen Castle. That's the kid that we saw. He had maybe 2 games where you noticed them in the NCAA tournament. The kid from UConn, who was a highly rated college player out of Georgia. He's a 6'6" wing. He reminds me of the hype that Cam Whitmore got at Villanova. Like, they really haven't done anything yet, and this kid's going to be picked fourth based on hope, and maybe he's got athletic skill, and he was a highly ranked high school player. Fourth pick in the draft. And then we go to the Detroit Pistons, and according to this mock draft, they're going to trade the pick to Memphis and Memphis takes Donovan Clingan, the 7'2" kid from Connecticut. All right, he's got a lot of work to do in the NBA. He's going to be the fifth pick in the draft. Let's go to Dalton Connect. I like him, 6'5" wing. A lot of people misguidedly compared him to Larry Bird. He's got good jump shot range. He's an older player, 23 years old. He's been around. Nice player. I don't know how well he's going to defend in the league. And then Portland, Matsis Buzelis, he's from the G League. So the first G League Ignite player is going to go 7. And there's Cody Williams from Colorado. I got to be honest with you. I didn't see him at all. A lot of people think he's got some potential. And then there's a kid from France, Tijan Solan, 6'9", 18-year-old kid. He's coming in. And then there's Devin Carter from Providence, 10. Nice player, but maybe I'm underrating. Now it gets interesting because at 11, this mock draft says Zach Edey is going to go to the Bulls. Now they already have a slow center in Nick Vucevic. I don't know why they would take him unless Vucevic is going to leave there, and they replace one slow center with another one. Bub Carrington from Pittsburgh at 12. Ron Holland from the G League at 13 to the Kings. And then Rob Dillingham from Kentucky goes next as 6'1" guard. And we get to the Heat. They're going to take Nikola Topic, who's in Croatia, 18-year-old kid. And then the Sixers. And the consensus pick for the Sixers is Jared McCain, a 6'2" guard from Duke. I don't have any idea, brother. He's a nice player. He's 6'2". What he's going to be? Is he going to be a backup point guard? Are they going to have 2 6'2" guards with him and Maxey in the backcourt? I don't know if that works either. And you can go on and on for the rest of this draft, and you're not going to find anybody that pops out to you. When Tyler Kolek, by the way, a gritty, nice player, reminds me of John Crotty, a 6'1" guard from Marquette. When he's in the first round, I go, all right, I'm out. This is a draft I might not even watch, only for the drama that the Sixers might make a trade tomorrow. Let's close it down. Thanks, everybody, for listening to the Mike Missanelli podcast. We'll come at you twice a week. We'll come at you later this week with another great podcast. Tell your friends and neighbors. You can subscribe to this for free. And again, you can get me on email, mike@mikemiss.com. If you want a Cameo shout-out, just go to cameo.com, type in my name. We'll give you a personal shout-out, which are always fun for me, and I hope they're fun for the people that I've given Cameo shout-outs to. And you can get me on Twitter, @MikeMiss25. For Darren, the producer, who is not seen on the podcast. He's just the voice in the wilderness. I am Mike Missanelli with the Mike Missanelli podcast. Have a great rest of the week. The heat subsided a little bit. It's cool. So get out there, have some fun without sweating your butt off. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.